In 2016, for the first time, we collected the contributions of the parishes towards the cost of mission and ministry in the Diocese of Southwark through the Parish Support Fund. We are delighted to say that of just over £16 million pledged by the parishes, over 99% has been received. And we want to say thank you to all who have contributed to making this new pledged-based scheme successful. The resources from the parishes, which comes into the diocese to help to fund our parish's mission and ministry, has enabled new initiatives in parishes and diocesan-wide. One such initiative is the Spanish language Anglican services for the growing number of Latin Americans in the borough of Southwark.
It's a new project. It's been going for about just over a year as a way of trying to reach the Latin American population. We wanted to offer a service in Spanish.
I think there is something very strong in being able to worship God in your own language, because there are some feelings that you can only express in your own language.
The Church of England is a national church. It's the Church of England, and it doesn't always necessarily mean that we're the Church of the English.
People are quite alone in London. Even though they have been here for 30 years, 20 years, they speak English, they have jobs and a life here, but the sense of being a foreigner is still there very strongly. What they bring them here, I think, is the sense of family.
And I feel welcome, and I think I have been coming here to this church for the last 18 months, and I made my effort to come every time there is a mass.
But for me, it's very different to the services in my local churches, and I feel more of a sense of community in this church, and for me that's very important.
The Parish Support Fund enables churches that would actually probably close if it wasn't around to remain open and offer their own ministry and mission to their communities. Churches like St Philip's is open purely because of the Parish Support Fund. There's no doubt about that.
There has been a similar initiative for people from the Ugandan Community in London meeting at St John's Waterloo, which has been led by the Reverend Godfrey Kaziro since 1996, and which now is established through a bishop's mission order.
When our church was started, one of the aims and objectives was to collect Ugandanis and friends of Uganda. Ugandanis in London, especially, were socially isolated, were having problems, bereavement, when they are sick in hospitals, their children involved in criminal gangs.
This is the very first church in England to worship in Uganda, and worshiping in our language helps us to understand things better.
We hold funeral services, baptisms, hold weddings, as well as confirmation preparation for the children who want to have communion.
It helps us, and we feel a sense of community, meeting our old friends and being able to chat and talk about the problems we find here. It does help us to discuss things.
As part of our diocesan strategic goals, we are hoping to encourage fresh expressions of church, and we are grateful to the church commissioners who have given us a grant to help with the strategic development of new communities of faith. As part of this, the Reverend Canon Will Cookson has been appointed as our full-time Dean of Fresh Expressions.
And my role is to encourage new forms of worship in community, both lay-led and ordained-led. Fresh Expressions is about looking at the tradition of the church that's wanting to do things in new ways. We have such resources in our church that we miss out. The multiplicity of gifts is so overwhelming that actually we're mad if we don't tap into that and find new ways of sharing the good news with people of our generation and sharing in the mission of God.
He comes to this role having been the minister in charge of Springfield Church since 2002.
Springfield was set up 25 years ago to be an alternative worshipping community. We don't have a parish. On the positive side, I think the big positive is that we therefore have to be totally relational.
It's a family church, so it doesn't matter whether you're 8 or very old, you're still part of the family, and that's what I like about it. After all, the church is the people, not the building, see, is it?
And I feel as a person, I'm encouraged to grow spiritually and get to know God even more.
All our investment goes into people. In Springfield, we have always been a net contributor to the diocese. We want to be a generous church in how we treat people within Springfield, but we also passionately want to be engaged with the wider church, the church that we're part of, the Church of England. So this fund is absolutely crucial to allow the diocese to reach its goal of more worshipping communities in more deprived areas, in more different areas, in many different sorts of background.
New ways of being church are incredibly important as we seek to engage with those who are not usually involved in the church. But our clergy and lay people and the parishes and churches in which they worship are doing exciting new things too. So it is really very significant when one of our church buildings has an annex built onto it to make it much more fitted to God's mission in that place.
Our annex is a fantastic addition to our church building and to our worship space. We now have a downstairs and an upstairs room which can be used for meetings, for services, for groups. We have a kitchen, we have toilets. The winter night shelter have been really blessed by it. They were the first people to use it once it was opened. It's a part of our building that we use for many different things, and we're slowly building up the use and hire of it so that it can be a place in the community for the community. One of the things that we do that we run on a fortnightly basis is a lunch club. It starts off with a speaker or a quiz or some activity for people just to chill out together and have fun, and then we provide a hot meal. We particularly are trying to reach out to those who are retired, those who are bereaved, those whose lives have changed. They have community, they can get to know people. And the other thing as well going on is we are known as a hearing champion base. We have people who are trained to do servicing and minor repairs to people's NHS hearing aids. And that's another fantastic thing to offer those elderly people in the community. So at St Luke's, we are really blessed and thankful for the Parish Support Fund. We give as much as we can give, and we're trying to increase our giving every year, but we can't give what is required to fund a full-time stipendiary clergy like myself. Through the giving that we receive as a net receiving church, we are able to put on the various events and mission and outreach, share the good news of Jesus with others.
The money which each parish gives helps to enable our parishes to serve people and share God's good news with them. Here's a brief outline of how the system works. In April, each parish is sent details concerning their parish's indicative costs for the year, and they are asked to send their pledge into their archdeacon by the end of June. The Parish Support Fund is a generosity-based scheme. God expects us all as individuals to give as much as we can to support God's work. So we ask everyone to regularly review their giving and to give in proportion to all that God has given to us. Another of the principles of the Parish Support Fund is that parishes should seek to become self-financing. We know that this is not possible for every parish in the diocese, but we hope that those who can will seek to move towards this position year on year. Some of our churches are able to contribute much more than their own costs, and to help to ensure that there are churches, even in those places where they cannot pay for all that it costs for them to be there. That's why we ask that every parish is as generous as they can be, so that it is possible for there to be a presence in every community right across the diocese. The diocese is rather like a family. Just as in a family, the parishes rely upon each other to ensure that there are enough resources to make sure that God's mission and ministry is enabled right across the diocese. In order for the diocese to be able to support the mission and ministry of the churches in the Diocese of Southwark in 2018, we need to raise approximately £16.6 million. That's a great deal of money, but it isn't impossible for us to do this, because in 2016 we raised about £16 million and we have so far received pledges of £16.25 million for 2017. So we are asking each parish to consider prayerfully what they can generously give, and are asking that this should not be less than 2% above what they have pledged for 2017. Our pledges enable parishes such as St Barnabas Clapham Common to work in their local community, and they are very much involved in the local night shelter in their area.
They give us their time, their venue, their enthusiasm, which is something that you just cannot purchase. And that's the vital thing that the churches provide. They provide manpower and they provide sympathetic ear and enthusiasm towards your fellow man.
For me, it's part of my spiritual growth. I enjoy coming and meeting the guests. They're just normal people. Anybody could be homeless.
I was sleeping at North Finchley bus station without glass door. I don't know where I would have been heading for. Because I've got a roof over my head. I've got 2 meals a day, which I'm very grateful for. And everything's going right. I have about several interviews lined up, which I'm grateful for.
They show a lot of empathy towards our conditions, and they try and help us get back on our feet.
So St Barnabas receive 10% of the suggested amount, which enables us to meet the full cost of our budget for the year and participate in something like the night shelter. Talking about money can be tricky, but if you in good conscience are making your pledge, then actually you also in good conscience can speak about that freely with others.
There is so much going on in the diocese which is vibrant and innovative, and which helps people to learn more about and grow in the faith. And it is a really exciting time to be part of all that God is doing here in the diocese. We hope that your PCC will consider carefully and prayerfully all that God has given to them and respond generously to the call to give all that they can to the work of the parishes in the diocese. There are plenty of people to help your PCC to make their pledge, so please contact your Archdeacon, the Diocesan Parish Giving Communications Officer, the Diocesan Secretary, the Financial Services Department, or Communications and Resources. Please pray about what you can pledge and be as generous as you can possibly be in response to God's generosity to us. Thank you.